Iran and Oman have restarted talks aimed at managing the Strait of Hormuz, as pressure continues to build around the vital waterway. The discussions come after months of disruption caused by the wider US-Iran conflict and growing concerns over commercial shipping. Tehran and Muscat are now looking for a jointly managed route that could allow commercial vessels to move through the strait more safely. Oman's Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi traveled to Tehran for discussions with Iranian officials. Oman has long played a diplomatic role between Iran and the West, making Muscat an important channel for efforts to reduce tensions. Al-Busaidi met Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi as both sides discussed the future of maritime traffic. Iran has proposed creating a temporary navigational corridor through the Strait of Hormuz. The idea is to establish a designated route for shipping, while broader security and diplomatic issues remain unresolved. Tehran says the talks are designed to manage maritime traffic rather than reopen another military confrontation. Iran and Oman are seeking arrangements that could make passage more predictable for commercial vessels operating in the region. The two countries have also agreed to work on clearing mines from the waterway. Mine threats can force commercial ships to slow down or avoid an area entirely, making clearance a key part of any effort to restore safe navigation. The negotiations are taking place against a backdrop of continuing tensions between Iran and the United States. Although large-scale fighting has largely subsided, the security situation around Hormuz remains fragile. For Tehran, restoring controlled shipping could help ease the economic pressure caused by the disruption. But diplomacy has not eliminated the danger. Commercial vessels continue to face security risks. That danger was highlighted again when an oil tanker was struck near the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. The United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Agency said the tanker was hit by an unidentified projectile around 17 kilometers northeast of Oman's Ash Shisha. The vessel was reportedly disabled following the incident. The latest tanker incident has renewed fears that commercial shipping could once again become a target. U.S. President Donald Trump has meanwhile claimed that all mines in the Strait of Hormuz have been cleared. But the continuing security incidents underline the gap between political assurances and the risks faced by ships on the water. The stakes are enormous. Before the war, roughly 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas shipments passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Any prolonged disruption can therefore affect energy markets far beyond the Middle East. Since the conflict began, most commercial shipping through the waterway has been severely disrupted. Tankers and other vessels have faced uncertainty over security, navigation, and the possibility of further attacks. At the same time, broader US-Iran diplomatic efforts have stalled. The absence of a wider agreement makes it harder to establish a lasting security framework for Hormuz and leaves the future of maritime traffic uncertain. While diplomacy remains stuck, Washington is increasing economic pressure on Tehran. The United States is seeking to weaken Iran's economy and reduce the country's ability to generate revenue from international trade. The Trump administration has warned that its pressure campaign will extend beyond Iran itself. Washington is increasingly looking at countries and companies that continue to maintain commercial relationships with Tehran. The administration's broader campaign has been described as an effort to economically isolate Iran. The objective is to make doing business with Tehran more difficult by increasing the financial and legal risks for foreign partners. Washington has warned countries that continue trading with Iran that they could face consequences. The threat of secondary sanctions could force businesses and governments to choose between access to the U.S. financial system and maintaining trade with Tehran. Iran has strongly rejected the American campaign. Tehran has described the sanctions effort as gross lawlessness and argues that Washington is attempting to interfere with legitimate economic relationships between sovereign states. China and other countries maintaining economic ties with Iran could face growing pressure from Washington. Beijing has already criticized unilateral sanctions and said its legitimate economic cooperation with Iran should not be disrupted. Despite the continuing pressure, the United States is beginning to send personnel back to some diplomatic missions in the Middle East. Several facilities had previously been evacuated or downsized because of fears of escalation. The return of personnel suggests Washington believes the immediate risk of a major new escalation has decreased. However, the situation remains fluid, particularly around maritime routes and potential attacks. Some American diplomatic facilities are expected to gradually resume normal operations. But several missions will initially remain below full capacity as Washington continues to assess the security environment. Meanwhile, oil prices have fallen for a second consecutive day. Traders appear to be discounting the immediate impact of the latest U.S. sanctions, suggesting markets currently see limited disruption to global supply. But the political pressure on President Trump is increasing ahead of America's congressional midterm elections. The longer the conflict and its economic consequences continue, the greater the potential political cost for the administration. A Reuters Ipsos poll found that support for U.S. military action against Iran has fallen to its lowest level since the early days of the conflict. Just 31% of Americans surveyed said they supported the war. Trump's overall approval rating also remained at just 33% in the poll. That marks the lowest level recorded for his presidency in Reuters Ipsos polling, adding another challenge as the midterms approach. The poll also found that most Americans expect the conflict to last for an extended period. That growing expectation of a prolonged war could make the issue increasingly difficult for Trump's political allies. So the crisis around Hormuz now sits at the intersection of diplomacy, military security, and economic warfare. Iran and Oman are trying to reopen a safe maritime route, while Washington continues tightening pressure on Tehran. For Tehran and Muscat, the immediate objective is clear: create a workable system that can restore commercial navigation through one of the world's most important energy choke points without triggering another escalation. Iran is therefore caught between two pressures: an increasingly aggressive U.S. sanctions campaign and continued disruption around a waterway vital to its economy. Tehran needs reliable maritime access, but restoring it requires a level of security that remains elusive. And that is why the Strait of Hormuz matters far beyond Iran, Oman, or the United States. If diplomacy succeeds, shipping could gradually return, and energy markets could stabilize. But if tensions flare again, the world's most important energy choke point could become the trigger for another global shock.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.